John. Today, I am joined with John Donnelly. I'll tell you more about who he is. He's going to talk to us today about the mindset that builds leaders and his formula for consistent wins. And we're going to jump into some things going on in the mortgage market right now because John is the executive director of sales at Service First Mortgage, where he leads a mission to help others achieve their goals through mindset mastery, systems, and culture. And John has just like a million years of experience in the mortgage business. He is that old and experienced, and he's just passionate about helping people go from stuck to thriving by aligning them with the right environment, mindset, and leadership. John, welcome. How are you, sir? Sorry to call
I'm
you old.
great. Super happy to be here, Dan. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So, John, so you've been in the mortgage industry for a second, right?
I started in 1997, so I got to see a couple things go up and down here in our business.
All right. So 1997. And walk us back if you could when you got started in the mortgage industry. What were you doing before, and what caused you to get involved in it?
Oh, that's a great question. I was working at a computer retailer, a big box computer retailer, and my wife had a friend at a mortgage company in accounting and said they need loan officers. And I didn't even know what it was. And so I applied and got the job, and I was in a call center and started learning how to do loans that way. And then eventually I was like, I don't want to be in a call center depending on some big company. I want to be referral based loan officer, generate my own business. So a couple years into that, I transitioned out and started building my own business.
What was the big box store?
First Plus
First Plus.
Financial, doing 125 second liens.
Oh no, before that, the big
Oh,
box store,
I'm sorry. That was where I started my first mortgage job. Before that was CompUSA and Best Buy. I worked at both of them.
all right. Well, Best Buy's still around, right? CompUSA, are they still around? I don't think they
Not
are.
no, they're not still around. But yeah, I worked at Best Buy and then CompUSA. So
All right. I was going to say you had the wisdom to know the future that
yeah,
those stores are no longer.
I wish I could say that, but no, not necessarily. I had a drive to make more money and to do more, just become a sales professional. And I was actually transitioned to a government and education sales team at CompUSA and was learning how to be a sales professional. And then this came up out of nowhere. And I was like, mortgage sounds cool. People are making a lot of money. Let's try that.
So John, so tell us about your organization. Like, what's your day to day look like? How are you, how are you structured? What can you share with us?
Yeah, sure. We're a mortgage banker based out of Dallas, Texas, and our focus is serving our clients, which look like builders, realtors, past customers, that type of thing. We've got loan officers that are referral based loan officers that are out just generating business, and our job is to close fast and make them happy and get repeat business. I mean, very traditional mortgage business.
How many loan officers do you have with you?
Oh, right about 100. Yep.
Okay. And they work directly for you, or how's that structured?
Yeah, they work for me and one other guy inside our company, and we lead sales for the organization, and we just have different channels, that we're trying to maneuver and position ourselves. Always changing. The market's always shifting and changing right now.
So you have 100 people or more than 100 people that you're leading directly. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
What and so that lays into the conversation today, which is the mindset that allows for you to be able to build leaders and the formula for consistent wins. What would you say is the mindset that helps you as a leader and the mindset that you hear or you observe in other leaders that allows for them to be successful?
Yeah, I think that the first thing that comes to mind, maybe is a cliche in some ways, but I always think of servant leadership. My whole approach is I want more for people than I want from them, and that's served me well for a long time. And so with that approach, you know, sometimes leadership can be lonely, if you will, because you're trying to build everybody else up. And you got to be okay with that, and you got to be okay pouring into other people. Um, but that's kind of been my approach, and it's worked great for me over the years. Um, Recently, if you will, I found myself kind of going through it. I guess as I was called out by reinventing myself, like a new version of myself. I was kind of coming through, and I came across this because I read a book that a friend of mine recommended called The 12 Hour Walk, and I read this book and it says walk out your front door and go walk for 12 hours. So then, like, I read it, I finished it. Next Sunday I did it, and it was pretty awesome for me. I took 17 pages of notes. I walked 30 miles in a 12 hours. I've never done anything like that before. And for me, I've thought about my personal leadership. Where am I going in my career? And I would say self leadership precedes team leadership. And I think that matters first. So you gotta take care of yourself and know where you're going and what you're about. And I just had a lot of time to reflect on things, so much time that it was too much time in some senses because it was 12 hours. But, I made some decisions. We said I'm kind of old earlier. I just turned 50. I decided I'm going to go hike Kilimanjaro. That turned into a health journey for me where I had to go work out more and get in shape. But what's interesting about that is I cast this vision, and then it like has been attracting people to me, and I share this story, and the cadence of accountability of me working out more is like it's almost like contagious to a lot of people around me. So that's been cool because that translates into your business.
How
When
often do you work out?
right now I work out 3 days a week with a trainer, and then I'm walking on the weekends pretty heavy. So, and I'm climbing Kilimanjaro in June, so I'm getting close.
You feel ready for it?
I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I kind of want to get it over with. Like I'm ready. I'm ready to get over with and figure out what's next, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I do want to get it over with. I'm climbing with a buddy of mine. He's been a realtor partner for years, and we're pumped. Yeah, we're ready.
How long will that take you?
8 days, 8 days of climbing.
Wow.
So it's substantial, and it you think about how does that why does that matter to your own personal self? That's kind of what I think about. Okay, I'm doing this thing. Does it matter at work? Well, yeah, I feel better. I sleep better. I have more energy. Personally, that's a big deal. There's a lot going on in this world right now. You need a lot of energy, and you got to be creative. So that personal drive is good. And then I'm leading by example. I'm not telling people to go do something. I'm doing it myself. So I feel good about that. But,
I think there's a big one there that I'm sure you're aware of, but you didn't mention it, which would be anytime that you achieve something that's hard,
yes.
it's almost like it takes other hard things and it makes them, it puts them all into perspective, right? So it's almost like if you're going to expand yourself, then anything that was like simple becomes simpler. And then
Yep.
the greater that you expand yourself, it allows for things that were just like hard and you do something incredibly hard. Now the things that were hard become easier from a perspective.
Yeah. I'm not talking about that as much, but I know it's out there because I want to get done with the climb to know how hard is it going to be exactly. But it's not
You
easy.
probably, when you come back, that's probably the answer. It's some sort of version of that.
I
It
agree.
probably will be more elegant than what I just said, but it's going to be some
Yes.
sort of version of that.
I think it's right on, spot on. I hope it is. I do hope that it's challenging. I do hope it's hard. I hope I struggle because it'll be worth it so much more.
Oh, hey, John,
Yeah.
it's going to be hard and you're going to struggle and it will be worth it. Just, I mean, you
Yeah.
said, I
I know.
hope all that. I'm just
Yeah.
reaffirming it
It's
will
gonna
be.
be. Thank you. I appreciate that. I get it. I'm signing up for it to be hard and challenging.
So let's go back to leadership. So first, it's about leading yourself.
Yep.
It's about being a servant, is your style of leadership. It's about caring for others, oftentimes before you care for yourself, but there's a little bit of a balance of that, right?
Right.
What mistakes since 1997? Just give me one. I'm sure that there's, maybe
Yeah.
more than one. But what mistakes have you experienced in your leadership style? Give me a specific example and expand on that. Let me know what you did, what happened, and what did you learn?
I'm trying to think of which one to share. but the first thing that pops to my mind is I remember this feeling early on in my career. I was I took a corporate job where I was over, large teams and some operations, and that was new to me, that kind of responsibility. Before that, I was just like a producing loan officer in a branch, had a couple employees, not as so much responsibility. And my approach was to be too casual, be too friendly, like kind of be friends with them, I guess, in a sense. And that was my personality because sometimes you want people to like you, but that also makes it harder to make hard decisions fast. And
Yeah.
so, I give people too much rope too early is one of my lessons, if you will. And I was a little bit too casual sometimes with our relationship, not weirdly just, almost too friendly, and because of that, and over time, what I've learned, is that didn't help anybody. I remember giving a loan officer who was having a hard time producing, and really when they did get loans, it was complicated because they weren't knowing the system very well. We finally parted ways, and one of our operations staff said, "It's about time you did that." And I
Yeah.
was like, why didn't you tell me more? Why didn't you tell me earlier? And what I kind of learned was people are watching how your leadership style is, and they're waiting for you to make those decisions, and so I learned that I need to draw that line of a little bit quicker, and I need to make decisions when my gut's telling me, and not sit on it too long.
Yeah, and it's also when you're looking at like, so you would say that was a relationship with a non-performer that you
That
hung
particular
on
one,
to.
right?
Yeah, yeah, that
Yep,
you hung on for too long.
right.
Yeah. Do you recall why? Was it because you wanted to be liked? Was it because you had faith in that person? Was it because you cared
Yeah,
for them and you wanted to, wait, what caused you to hang on to them too long?
I think that I personally feel like that I wanted to feel like I did everything I could for them,
Yeah.
and to know that I cleared my own conscience that it didn't work out. And I had already, but I felt, like I brought this person on, I've spent time with them, I've taken on expense. Like it's not that much, it's not a lot harder to let it go another week or another month. Like, what's the difference? We got this far, but then that turns into 4 months, 5 months, and you're like, okay, now we're in a hole. Now I'm upset at myself because I already knew, my gut said you got to cut this and move on. And so that's just an early lesson that you got to learn as a leader fast, like when to take action and make those hard decisions quicker. That just matters. And
Yeah,
I
I
want
say,
to do that early on.
yeah, I say in my leadership journey, when for people that work within my companies, oftentimes other people will say, Dan, how do you get such talented people? How do you get such great people? And I get asked that often. And my answer to it's simple is that I don't actually get great people. I keep great people. And when you understand the difference between those, like so what that means is, for example, right now we've got three people that started my organization this morning
Okay.
for a role. All right. Now I hope all three succeed. I'm not talking about those three individuals, right? But let's just say a random three, otherwise, odds are maybe one will succeed. And you got to be able to make that decision quickly and part ways because because you care for that individual and you care for your company, you care for the other people within your company. And then, for me, if somebody's with me for 90 days, they're with me for 6 years, right? But if but most people never make it to 90 days, and that's just been my experience, and I had to develop in that to because I used to fall in that same trap. You care,
Yeah.
you care, you care, and you care more than they care, and you listen to the words rather than pay attention to the actions.
That's a big part of it too. I think that what I also learned is, even though it's hard to make that decision, it's often best for them too, because they end up in a better place a little bit quicker. And so you're doing them a favor, even though it doesn't feel like it. It sometimes really is doing them a favor.
Yeah, I think you're doing a person, if you're a leader and you let somebody within your organization, it doesn't match your culture, your values, your beliefs, your perspective, your vision, your mission, your goals. If you let that person stay within your organization, you're doing them a disservice
Yeah.
because it doesn't make them a bad person if they don't align with all those things. It just makes it that they're going to be uncomfortable and their mission, vision, beliefs, perspective, etc., are different than yours. So you owe them a favor to help them go find themselves a place that they're going to align with, if it's not yours.
Yep. Yeah, I've learned that too. 100% learned that. Um,
So tell me about the mortgage market. So since I've got you here to pick your brain, there's a
yep.
lot of conversation right now. So we're doing this April 23rd, 2025. So you're probably listening to this in a replay or on the podcast just to give you a perspective of where we are in time. And I'd love to understand, John, like where is the market right now in regards to mortgage? Where do you think it's going? Where has it been? And what causes you to have those beliefs?
Yeah, it's interesting that today we looked at mortgage volume is matching the same volume as 1990, which was a really low volume year of mortgages originated, right?
In
And
what period of time? Is that like over a month, over 3 months, a quarter? What are we talking about there?
like if you look at a chart of applications over the last 30 years and you just chart that thing back, we're down year over, I guess it's year over year if you call it. The
Okay.
application volume that we're seeing as a country today matches some of the lowest volume we've seen since 1990. And you think, okay, why is that? And another thought that I had this morning was I bet we have a lot more people than we did in 1990. And it turns out
Sure.
we have 30% increase in population. It was like 259 million people, and we're at like 240 million people or whatever. So we have more people. So there's more demand, but there's the same volume as 1990. And so you're like, why is that? And the feedback that I'm gaining right now is the uncertainty of the rates and the political environment and all the things that are going on. People are just halting and they're just going to wait and see a little bit. And so rates are bouncing all over the place. Within a week you're getting swings of a half to a point, it feels like, and so that makes you uncertain. People that have houses up for sale are willing to give more than they have been. So it's interesting to start to see seller concessions are coming out. There's more inventory popping up, and but to be fair, what I also see is the people that are hustling are still doing business, and so there's still opportunity out there to make some money and close business. But what I see is like either volume is going down for individuals or it's going up. There's no middle ground of a middle producer right now. It's kind of
Yeah.
separating everybody.
I think for the right mindset, for the right people, when it gets harder, that's where the opportunity is, and you're able to. For me, I got my real estate license in 2007 and 2008, 2009. Those
Yeah.
were tough days, right? But I was able to figure out 18 months after I got my real estate license, I bought the brokerage I worked for. Right now, this is in a down time,
Yeah.
because it was like I didn't know any better.
That's right. That's great sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that ignorance is bliss kind of thought is good for some people because they overthink it.
Sure. Now, no, how familiar are you with you in the 1990? Like, what happened after that? Like, how long was it? Do you know how long it was? At that low volume, or do you have that data?
Yeah, I had some charts up earlier. I was just looking back while I'm talking to you. It kind of fluctuated a little bit and then it started growing, right? The volume started growing all the way until 2008, until the crash kind of hit.
So what I'm asking that question, because though it's a different economic cycle, it's a different, there's different things that were causing at 90 to be low volume versus today. But if you can look backwards, it can maybe say, well, how long do we anticipate to be in this low demand
Yeah,
area?
I think that it's it feels different to me. The reason I say that is interest rates in my career since 1997, for the most part, have just gone down almost the whole time. So I got a 30 year run of rates coming down. Now all of a sudden they pop up and everybody freaks out. This is
Yeah.
an uncharted place for a lot of us that have never been in the business, and so I also got to experience, the 2008 crash. It happened so much faster. We had this meltdown. 2010 was the slow year a lot of ways where it was everybody was trying to figure it out. I kept saying back then, there's going to be a lot less forks in the pie. As this thing starts to turn, you're going to get business, even though there's less of it because so many people are out. And it
Yeah.
just forced everybody out immediately within a year. Well, we've been forcing people out now for 2.5 years, I feel like. And so it's a slower death of 1,000 cuts right now. That's just different. And
Yeah, it's
so
a good perspective. I hadn't considered that, and you're completely right. So I've been through two downturns now. One when I got started in 2008, and now, and the difference was that literally that turn happened between November 2007. You had the seasonal dip, which
yeah,
happens every single year. March 2008, it never came back up.
right. Never
Right.
did.
And so it was literally over that winter cycle right there. It flipped and it went down and it didn't until it bottomed out and call it 2009, depending on where you are and
Right.
in your geography. But here it's been 2.5 years of just, it was really, really busy coming right out of the pandemic. In the early days of the pandemic, it was super busy, and then it just dissipated and disappeared. And now it's like 2.5 years later, it's like, man, like first I thought it was because of interest rates, and then it was because of the inflation, and then
Yeah.
it's because of the president, and because of the economics and the tariffs, and it's just like it's almost like one after another, a hit after a hit to be able to cause you sort of go
Right.
backwards a bit.
It is, and honestly, I feel like we're not quite out of the weeds yet. I think it's not till next year that it really starts to turn because tariffs and in recession and all the things that are going on, job markets, a lot of this stuff is just going to keep us people uneasy. It's going to keep people.
Well, here's the good news. If you're in business right now, if you're in real estate sales, if you're in, the mortgage business or something, associated with that, and you're surviving. I don't know if it's going to get worse. I think I agree with you that it's going to be a second before it gets better, and
Yeah,
maybe it will get worse. I don't know, and I we'll see, right? But
yeah,
I think if you're surviving today, I think you'll survive until
yes.
until the turn.
If you made it this long, you made it through the worst of it, right? There's a speck of light out there that.
And John, I wasn't talking to any of the audience when I just said that. I was just talking to myself, just so you know.
Okay, exactly. I get it. We all need it, right?
I'm just talking to me.
Dude, yeah. Amen. I get that. We need that self-talk too.
Yeah.
That's
All right. So let's go back to leadership. So thank you for sharing with us, your magic ball and a little bit of the history of the mortgage. And as a leader, what's the difference? Because you've led smaller organizations and larger organizations, correct?
yes.
What's the difference? Is there a difference?
Um, depends on the size. Yes. In my experience, I haven't led a nationwide thousands of people, but
Yeah.
smaller teams and then large region of teams and multiple branches, couple hundred employees type of thing. The difference is your communication style is one thing that really matters. When it's a small branch or a small team, it's easy to have real casual one-off little conversations and communicate everything more effectively. When you have a large organization, it's a lot. You got to be systematized on how you approach everything from your communication to product rollouts to just how you support people, how you even get together. You got to have a plan and a system for everything.
Have you noticed that your voice gets amplified?
Big time. Yeah, everybody's watching more than you think. They're watching every move you make. They're watching the word you say.
I remember I was 25 years old. I was a food and beverage director at a small luxury hotel. I had three restaurants and a marina that I was responsible in a bar that I was responsible for the food and beverage service. And I had around 100 and some odd employees that worked for me. And one day I said, sort of as an offhanded thing, something like, we should get different silverware for this restaurant. And literally 2 weeks later, there's a big shipment of silverware. And I'm like, where did this come from? They're like, no, you said to get it. And I was
Yeah,
just like, I was just talking out loud. As a
exactly.
25-year-old, kid, basically, that was like one of the first leadership lessons I learned. I'm like, gee whiz, that's not what I meant.
Right. Double check with me before you take action on that. But yeah, it's true because a lot of times it is just ideas and things you're thinking about and you want to talk about it, but then people your team will take action on it and you're not ready. And it's maybe not even after you sit on it a day or two, it's not even what you want to do, you know?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
And so if you're a new leader today, what advice do you have for them?
Um, that's a good one. I think knowing how you want to be seen and how you want to be perceived and getting clear on your leadership style and vision is interesting. This is something that um, I didn't actually think about until I did that 12-hour walk. I have a little quick little story. I was thinking about the type of leader I want to be, and I started thinking about the individuals that are influential in my life. You know, like Tony Robbins has been somebody that I've listened to his tapes when I was young, and so I said, hey, what if I had this board of directors of people that I'm trying to be like, and and what kind of advice would they give to me? And it was just, I was on a 12-hour walk. I had nothing to think about. So I started going deep into this idea. And what came out of it for me was I want to be perceived as a class act. This is kind of my words. And so what does that mean? So I had to start defining that. It means how I dress, how I show up, and am I on time, how my words are spoken, the things I do. And the reason I came up with that is because I tried to have conversations with these people in my board and get feedback. I know it's a little bit goofy to think about, but it was cool. It was a cool exercise. And I've used this filter. I'm trying my best to be this class act in all aspects of my life, through my parenting, through my leadership, through all that. And so I wouldn't have given this advice if it wasn't for recently, but the first thing to think about is know who you are, the type of person you are, where you need to work on, the leader you're trying to be, and get clear on that
Who
and
else is on
after people.
who else is on your board of directors?
I've got Jesse Itzler, John Maxwell, Tony Robbins, Kobe Bryant, John Wooden, Teddy Roosevelt. We got a big group of people. Like lots of all aspects are for different reasons. And then I've actually kind of started breaking that down a little bit as to why. And then I've started like reading up on some of these people to get to know them a little bit better, just as my own thing, just my own leadership journey.
I also have a board of directors. You probably learned that from Think and Grow Rich. Is that where you got that
Yes.
from?
Yeah, that kind of the idea of that. And then there's one more spin on it is I can't remember the book, but um, there was a picture this guy had on his in his office of the 10 leaders, and he had it painted, custom painted. And that's what actually I was thinking about the most is that picture. Who would be in my picture if I had it painted? And how would they be interacting? And so, but yeah, back from Think and Grow Rich is where it kind of is the original evolution of it. But anyway, it's kind of cool thought.
So, on that 12-hour journey, you talk to us about like walk me through that 12-hour journey. I'm curious about that walk.
Yeah. Um, the first thing is you're not supposed to have people with you, no music, and you're just supposed to walk. You don't have to go a certain distance. You just movement is good. And so
Can you have a
I
notepad with you?
I had a notepad, I had a phone, and you're not supposed to have your phone alerts on. You can use it for like a GPS or whatever. I use mine to take notes, and so I spoke to it a lot. But I had a notepad, I had water, snacks, and I walked out my front door and I started going. And what I quickly realized is the places I'm going to go are places I can use the restroom. So I had to keep that in mind because I was in the city. And so I was thinking about that. Okay, if I go here, I could go to the restroom. So that kind of was a guide for me. But ultimately, I just started walking and there's immediate things that are on your mind when you start going that you kind of start processing through, whatever those things are. And And then all of a sudden there's this dead time where you're like, what am I even doing this for? And you kind of go through this moment of challenging yourself. And then a couple hours into it, I don't know what happened, but I looked up and I had gone about an hour and I honestly couldn't remember the street I crossed or anything I saw. I was so deep in thought. I was like, wow, that was pretty cool. That I can't believe I'm standing where I'm at right now, you know? And I was like, I'm tracking my distance, and I was like, if I just keep going, I'll go a marathon. I've never ran a marathon, you know. And then I ended up just going. But what I did was I used an app called Journal on my iPhone, and I like to talk to it while I was walking, so I just talked to it a lot. And then I compiled all my notes together at the end. And you know, some of the stuff you get to thinking about is nothing, and other is like real breakthrough stuff. And what was cool for me is I didn't really think about this 12-hour walk. I just did it, you know. I didn't have a lot of thoughts. I wasn't super prepared. I didn't even have like a major problem I was trying to sort out. I wasn't, you know, I just kind of said, yeah, I want to do this right now and see what happens. And that really resulted in me going, hey, yeah, I'm turning 50. What does that mean? And what does this look like for my family? It had to be 12 hours to get to the depth of the thought. If it was a 2 hour walk, I wouldn't have got there. But there was times where you're bored out of your mind and you're just walking along. You're like, I don't know what to do right now. And then you just kind of start thinking back, well, yeah, maybe I need to work on this more. And it's just your brain just goes. You learn a lot about yourself. And so you know, and I learned physically. Go back to that doing hard things. I walked 30 miles. I walked 60,000 steps. That's pretty crazy. That's a hard thing. And it became now easy. If you say, "Can you walk 30 miles?" I'm like, yeah, I can do that. It's not hard now, you know. And
Yeah,
so
but not only that, 20 miles is a freaking cakewalk,
yeah, exactly, piece of cake.
right?
I would have
Yeah.
told you 20 miles was like a long freaking way before.
Yeah.
And I'm you know, I walk pretty regular, but not that kind of distance. 3 miles, 4 miles, you know, not 30 miles. And so that was cool. That evolution, you know, changed the way I challenge my kids, the books I read, the journeys I'm on, vacations I want to take, where I want to go in my company or my personal leadership. I decided, you know, I was like, hey, how do I increase my influence? Maybe I should share my story and get on podcasts and, you know, write articles and do different posts about it. And just doing things is what's attractive. That's what I attract to. I thought about that. Like, what do I attract to in other people? It's the success they're having and the things they're doing. The things they're doing now, not the things they used to do 20 years ago, like the things they're doing now. That's what's attractive to me. And so I'm trying to do things that are interesting.
I love it. How long ago did you take that walk?
It was last April, so it's been a year, 1 year,
Okay.
and I was
And you
set.
said
Yeah, go ahead.
you said you didn't really prepare for it. You just like had the thought, you found the book and you like
Yeah,
just did it.
I I read this book called Comfort Crisis, and it's a great book, and it's kind of like it's a it's kind of challenge you to do something hard every year. A misogi is their term for it, right? And
Okay.
so I had read this book, and I was telling a friend of mine who lives in Oklahoma about the book. And he goes, oh, you're going to love the 12-hour walk book. Have you read that? I was like, no. And so I downloaded it and I listened to it like a few days. Like I loved it. It's easy to read. It's stories about this guy, Colin O'Brady's, all these hard things he's done, and it just motivated me. I was like, man, I'm doing this. I'm walking. I'm telling my wife I'm going on Sunday. Like I'm doing this right now. And I told her, and she's like, you're gonna do what? You know, I said I'm leaving at 5:30. I'm walking out the front door. Wherever Life's 360 says at 5:30 tonight, you're picking me up, and don't be late. Wherever I'm at, like wherever I'm at, I don't even know where I'm gonna be. And she's like, all right, it's fine, you know. And so it wasn't, you know, but I had this ideas of this masogi or doing something hard. I'm turning 50. All that was kind of in me already. It just brought it out of me. And then
I don't know, John. Have you heard for your 51st? Have you heard about the 24-hour walk?
I can do it. I can do it. But yeah, I don't know. The older you get, the longer these walks go. I'll be over walking for days. But no, you know, it's just kind of cool when you discover something like that, especially when it's unexpected. you know.
I love it. Well, John, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today, sharing your market insights about the mortgage and especially about the leadership and a little bit about your journey. How can somebody learn more about you? How can they find you?
I think the best way to find me is go and connect with me on LinkedIn. D John Donnelly is I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there, and johndonnelly.com is a website of mine that I use, and you can connect with me there. But I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn.
All right. Well, I'm gonna send out a request to be your LinkedIn pal here in just a second.
That's awesome. I appreciate you, Dan. It's been great.
Hey, John, nice to meet you, and God bless you. Everybody have the best day of your life. Be grateful, make good choices, go help somebody, and God bless you. We'll see you.